Good evening, I'm Savannah Kelly. Welcome to a special edition of APTN National News. In Ottawa, a couple thousand people came together on Parliament Hill to mark the 3rd National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a day to honor residential school survivors and the ones who didn't make it home. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
The Remembering the Children ceremony began with the Eagle River Singers Honor Song and an opening prayer with Claudette Commanda.
Without love, there's no healing. And what each and every one of our survivors pray for as we say this prayer from our heart today, let us show that love to the survivors.
It was a somber event, a time to show support, reflect, and entertain. Survivor Eddie Cote performed his residential school song. Onlookers sat and stood on the grounds. It was a sea of orange shirts and orange flags, and a few orange hearts as well. Richie Allen created them specifically for this event. She works at the Library and Archives of Canada.
I'd done work in these records, and I just knew I had to say something and do something. So part of doing something was making these hearts. I made a number of these hearts, and painted. Once they started having the National Day, I painted a couple orange to bring out the little ones for the little ones that didn't come back and we've yet to locate. And the big ones is for everybody.
Nancy Peel is a residential school survivor from Fort McMurray, Alberta. She says today is important so Canadians can understand the trauma of residential schools and its ongoing legacy. Peel says more than recognition is needed for survivors.
I think that it's not to throw money at them. It's to come up with some innovative healing programs that will walk people through the trauma and the damage that's been done.
An emotional and visual impact of the event was the procession of the ceremonial red cloth. It bears the names of over 4,000 children who died while attending residential schools. Quanah Travis helped to carry it through the crowd and to the stage.
It's covered in people who went and didn't come home. And the fact that for even 10 minutes of my life I was able to carry them to a place where they could be honored was probably one of the proudest moments of my life.
With the day coming to an end, most here agree healing and reconciliation will continue into the future. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
There was a lot happening in Ottawa and right across Canada on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Here's a look at some of the events from Parliament Hill.
This September 30th, 2023 marks the 3rd National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. I applaud all First Nations people across Turtle Island who continue to be resilient, courageous, and prosperous. So miigwech. Canada is taking some strides towards reconciliation. I'll admit that. But I challenge this country to do better. And I extend this challenge to all Canadians who know that they could do better. Let's never forget these important facts. Number one, First Nations people helped build this country dating back to the fur trade. Fact number two, we fought in many wars alongside you, and they were won because of our help.
We thank the Creator for all of His blessings. We come together, brothers and sisters, to raise our voice with love and kindness, to say a prayer our prayer of love to all the survivors who are here with us, to all those survivors who did not return home, and to all the children. Remembering the children.
I also want to honor the survivors for your resilience, your courage, and your strength. You are thrivers. The challenge now is, what do we do to have good relations? What do we do to restore respectful relationships? How do we advance true reconciliation?
We honor and we remember all those who are now our ancestors, watching over us in the spirit world. We are here because you survived genocide. We honor and remember the children who died in the Indian residential school institutions.
The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is a day to honor all Indigenous survivors who are with us and those children who died in those institutions. We must respect all survivors, amplify their voice, and call out the deniers. We must challenge the people who don't want to face the truth. The residential school system was intended to destroy First Nations, Inuit, and Métis cultures and our languages, but they did not succeed. For those that never made it home, their spirits call out to us to be remembered and to be honored. We have a powerful symbol of those truths. The National Student Memorial Register carries the names of 4,140 names of children identified through the records in the NCTR's care and the statements of their families. Our research is ongoing. We still don't have all the records. The NCTR continues to work with churches, governments, and others so we can finally access the 23 million records that were not released to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. We know more children will be found and their names will be added.
On February 29th, 1880, a letter from Bishop Grandin was addressed to the Canadian government. Bishop wrote, "If you bring us 100 Indians and half-breeds to the mission, where they leave our convent, they would no longer be Indians. They would become good citizens, earn a good living, and be useful to their country." And so it began, as across Canada, from coast to coast, as children were taken from their families. The opening of the residential school started the most tragic, destructive, and separation of the Native people and loss of our values and culture. We were witness to the darkest time in Canada's history.
I had so many emotions going through me when I was watching the memorial cloth banner. It's a visual impact of how many kids actually didn't come back home. So, what stories do we want to tell our children? This is, of course, the history of Canada, as told for the longest time, of explorers and discoveries, of taming a wild land, of settlements and confederation. But as time has passed, Canadians have come to realize that this version of history is not complete. Canada's history is so much more than that. It should reflect Indigenous histories. Certainly, our national history needs to reflect the challenges, trauma, joys, experiences, knowledge, and culture of Indigenous peoples and lives.
Wasay Healing Centre organized a healing walk in Winnipeg. The day started with a pipe ceremony and gathering at Udina Circle at the Forks, a monument to missing and murdered Indigenous people. Leanne Sanders has this report.
They came by the thousands, wearing their orange shirts, ribbon skirts, and even powwow regalia, walking to honor, remember, and heal from the residential schools and their legacy. The memories are still raw for Michelle Standing Ready, a survivor of the Lebret and Maryvale schools in Saskatchewan.
I spent about 5 years in and out, one residential school to another. Yeah.
Why is it important to be here today?
Because a lot of our friends went missing, unaccounted for. And for my kids too, eh?
Non-Indigenous people walked alongside. For Richard Kelly, who's taking an Indigenous Studies course, the story of a classmate from Long Plain had an impact on him.
6 years old, he was taken away from his family and moved to the Indian residential school in Brandon, which meant he could have no more contact. Even though there was a school there, he got sent to the one in Brandon just to make sure the contact was lost.
Jazz LaValle was moved to start a walk in 2021 when Kamloops Indian Band announced 215 potential unmarked graves were found at the residential school there. She's now undertaken a 4-directional walk.
People will just stop and hand me their moccasins and ask me to carry them. So this bag actually went from about 15 to about 50 pounds today. Everything you see on it is gifted from a survivor of some sort.
The walk today wound through downtown Winnipeg, ending at Canada Life Centre for a concert by Seaweed Band, and where young and old gathered for a powwow. And this little one, who was just happy to be seen, as so many Indigenous children never had a chance to be. Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
In Saskatoon, led by residential school survivors, a huge crowd walked to commemorate the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The Rock Your Roots Walk has been happening for the past 7 years. Over 100 local groups have been organizing the walk and other events since the TRC calls to action were announced. Thousands of people walked to Reconciliation Circle in Victoria Park to listen to speakers tell their stories and let the children of today participate in activities just for them. Shirley Isbister is one of the organizers. She said the walk was impressive to see and take part in.
The last one, we had over 4,000 people walking. It was amazing to turn around and just see a sea of orange. And what we encourage and what a lot of the cultural people do is they wear their regalia, they'll carry signs, they participate. So it's rocking your roots no matter what culture you come from. And at the same time, honoring our residential school survivors.
After the break, we continue our look back at this year's National Day for Truth and Reconciliation events. Stay with us. Welcome back to this special edition of APTN National News. To Nova Scotia now, where hundreds of people gathered in ceremony for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Angel Moore was at the event, which happened on the site of the former Shubenacadie Residential School.
Up this hill is where the Shubenacadie Residential School once stood. It was operated by the Catholic Church from 1930 to 1967, where thousands of Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqey children were forced to attend. Behind me is a heart filled with orange flags, a symbol of healing. Earlier today, hundreds of people gathered to remember those who did not come home. Debbie Paul is from the Saskatchewan Nation and is a survivor. She shared her story with the crowd and says the Catholic Church needs to release all records relating to the school.
And then, now it's time to lay our cards down on the table and say, government, charitable organizations, it's time for you to come with your documents. We've asked for them, you will not give them to us. We've asked, our leaders have asked, you've never given them to us. And what you do give us, it doesn't even relate for the stories that our survivors have told.
The event was organized by the Saskatchewan Mi'kmaq Nation. Community members gave out orange t-shirts for a day of learning and sharing traditional and cultural knowledge. Tim Bernard of the Millbrook Mi'kmaq Nation is the Executive Director for the Mi'kmaq-Debert Cultural Centre. He is working with the Saskatchewan Nation and survivors to develop a research plan for possible graves.
There's still other areas to be looked at, but they want to confirm with survivors and descendants that, stories of what we're hearing through our engagement sessions, that these are areas that we need the truth of.
The Orange Heart will remain for a few more days. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia.
The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation was especially poignant in the Yukon this year. In September, officials announced 15 potential unmarked graves were located at a former residential school site. Our reporter Sarah Connors tells us how the territory grappled with the discoveries while also seeking to move forward in a good way.
Hundreds gathered in downtown Whitehorse today to remember the children who never made it home. The crowd marched to the Kwanlin Dun Cultural Center, where a ceremony took place to honor survivors and their families.
The tobacco is for calling our people home and to protect our people.
The Carcross Tagish First Nation was presented with tobacco and cloth by the Yukon Residential School and Missing Children Project Vice Chair Doris Bill. Earlier this week, the project announced 15 potential graves were located at the former Chutla school site in Carcross. Deputy Hasha Duhen Darla Jean Lindstorm says the discoveries have validated what her community has known all along.
It's not a surprise, it's a confirmation that we knew what was out there.
Lindstorm says it's now time for the territory to heal from the traumas of the past.
So we must move on in a sacred, honorable way and, pray for each other, hold each other up and hold the survivors up, because it isn't an easy journey.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Nunavut's leadership gathered in the territory's capital to commemorate and remember Inuit who attended Canadian residential schools. As rain poured outside, well over 200 people attended the National Truth and Reconciliation Day ceremonies in Iqaluit. Representatives from Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated and other Inuit organizations gathered to honor their survivors and victims of residential schools. There were 13 schools in what became the territory of Nunavut, with the last one, Kavalik Hall in Rankin Inlet, closing in 1997.
I just want to say that this is something that we want to do as Inuit, is to reconcile what we've seen, what has gone through for the last 40 years, 50 years. So this is something that really matters for us. Like it says, every child matters, so every person matters in our case.
We need to take one more short break. Coming up, a look back at an event where thousands of youth heard from residential school survivors, knowledge keepers, and the Governor General. Welcome back to this special edition of APTN National News. Thousands of youth from the Ottawa region heard from residential school survivors and knowledge keepers at a youth-focused event. It was an opportunity to learn about Canada's history with a visit by Governor-General Mary Simon. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
Over 5,000 kids donning orange shirts packed the TD Place Arena in Ottawa, where they heard an honor song, followed by Juno Award winner Julie Black's version of O Canada.
Oh, Canada, our home on a native land.
They've come to learn about the impacts of the residential school system. It's the second year for the Gidduenimum, or We Are All Related event. Jennifer Wood of the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation says there's been a great response.
I believe that we had over 4 million viewers, and we had again over thousands of students attending from surrounding communities. So it's growing and growing, and you know, we want to build it as much as we can because it's time. It's a pivotal time in our history for survivors, in spite of everything that's happening with the discoveries and, you know, recognizing Orange Shirt Day and the reconciliation in general. I mean, Canada is listening, and we appreciate it as survivors.
Governor-General Mary Simon encouraged the youth to listen and learn.
It's up to you to say in one powerful voice, I will tell others what you tell me today. I will be shaped by what I hear. We will do better for each other. Today, let us build bridges of understanding, respect, healing, and reconciliation, because each of us must contribute to our collective journey of reconciliation in big and small ways.
It was also an opportunity to hear from residential school survivors.
First Nations people were here for thousands and thousands of years. The truth is, we lived here very, very well for thousands and thousands of years. We didn't need the newcomers to come and teach us how to live.
There were cultural dances as well. According to Wood, it's something survivors can take pride in. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
And that's all the time we have for tonight's special edition of APTN National News. For news anytime, head on over to our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Savannah Kelly. Marcy, Miigwech, thank you for joining us. Take care and have a great night.
Your spirit is here in our sound, and to you I call. Oh, catch us as